I'll tell you what, just to save time and trouble, how about if I read the guidelines? That way I don't have to display them on the
Do you have
screen.
a link to them?
No, I don't. I should put them on my Google Drive or something.
All right, just do that. I was just going to
Meantime,
share them. But if you just do that, then it's quicker, just for the sake of time, because we're at
yeah.
6:20. It's all good. It's,
So let me see. So welcome, of course, to our WordPress Web Help Meetup group. This is our June meeting, obviously. We were going to have Brendan give a presentation on custom post types, but just because of the demands and my inability to have my equipment up and running, we decided to postpone it until next week. So make sure you put on your calendars to be here the second Monday in next month, and we'll have Brendan O'Connell giving a presentation on custom post types, which should be really interesting. So our guidelines. All comments and discussions should be respectful of others, of course. We ask that you please add a profile photo to your Zoom account so we can still see your face when you turn off your camera. It's nothing worse than having somebody participating with just the letter B representing them. Please raise your virtual hand if you'd like to speak. Mute your microphone when you aren't speaking. And during speaker presentations, and we don't have one tonight, we're going to have a regular meeting, then just type your questions in the chat. All right, so that being said, we always start out by seeing, and it looks like we have all Chiefs, no Indians here tonight, which doesn't mean that there aren't, WordPress issues appear at every level of competency and professionalism. So we usually start our meetings by seeing if anybody has an issue regarding WordPress, but it can also, if we need to cast a wider net, if there's something that's challenging you in business. For instance, I'm in the midst of scaling, so I'm looking to add personnel to my mix. But if you have any sort of issues that you're bringing, you can mention them now. You can mention them during your introduction. I think our introductions will be kind of brief. I think everybody here knows each other. But I'm going to start by asking for introductions, starting in the order that I see on my screen, which would put Mr. Dinger first. So Greg, take it away. Why don't you tell us who you are, where you are, what you do, why you're here,
I own
WordPress or Business Challenge.
Right. I own Graybeard Design Group. I'm up in Mount Shasta, just an hour south of the Oregon border, and I have spent the last 20 plus years specializing in e-commerce. I am well past what should have been my retirement age. And I'm actually here because I'm trying to connect with people who might be able to support my efforts. I host over 40 stores, and I've got about 10 WordPress installs. Over the course of COVID, I lost my entire team. So I'm a solo act at this point. And actually, I had sent you an email a few weeks ago asking if you'd be interested in helping me with a couple of clients, and I didn't hear back from you. So it probably...
If you're talking to me, I've been the last couple of weeks. I've been basically incommunicado.
Okay.
I've been all about moving and reorganizing and scaling and down my living circumstances and scaling up. I have a lot of collectibles and things like that, so
I can relate.
doing a lot of selling.
Yeah. All right. So time allowing, I've got a couple projects I'd like to discuss. But probably first.
Moving forward from this point, actually from the point that I get my desk set up, once I'm set up, then I can be competent. Then I will be available
Okay.
at a more normal level. So
Okay.
my apologies if I missed your
Yes.
email.
It's okay. I started going through some of my sites in recent days with WordFence, where it lists which plugins have deprecated and been removed from the WordPress site.
Uh-huh.
And I was hoping to have a list of plugins that I need to substitute at this point, but my time got away from me and I'm not ready for that today.
Mm.
So that'll be another day. So
Yeah,
anyhow,
plugins is important to stay on
yeah.
top of.
So that's about me.
Okay. How about you, Brendan? You're next on my grid.
Hey everyone, Brendan O'Connell. I've been using WordPress since about 2017, and I work full time for an agency up in Santa Barbara called Amerivant Web Design. And I also freelance and have been growing my own client list as well. And just love all the stuff with WordPress, right? I love custom post types. That's what I'm going to be hopefully presenting on next week or next month. So yeah, I'm always looking to learn more, meet new people, and that's basically why I'm here. So yeah, I'm interested to hear what all your projects are, Greg, too. I mean, I don't, not that I'm want to sniff my nose into other people's projects, but if there's anything helpful that I can give people, that's what I'm here for.
Okay, good deal. Thank
I'm
you.
I just did a search for you, Greg. I'm not finding your email, so maybe you could resend it.
I'll do that.
It's Edward at brassringwebdesign.com.
And I
Okay.
hope that was okay that I said that, Edward. I didn't mean to insert myself there between you and whatever
You're,
Greg has.
I'm good with it.
hey, I understand the entrepreneurial reflex.
Yeah.
Did you check your spam?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes legit emails go to spam. They're getting pretty strict with it, I found sometimes. Oh, good. Okay.
All right. Well, how about Charles?
Yeah.
Charles, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi guys. So my name's Charles. I'm based out of San Antonio, Texas. Um, I am a full-time web developer for a small company based out of New England. Um, and I've been trying to restart my freelance business as well. So, Brendan, yeah, it's a struggle trying to find new clients, I'll tell you that. But anyway, so I'm just here to meet people, get advice, give advice, you know. So I frequent this group. I frequent the Woo Wednesday meetup group. Um, you know, I'm I'm part of a few meetup groups, and I recently just got co-organizer for the San Antonio WordPress group, and I'm fighting to get the San Antonio WooCommerce group as well. So, but anyways, that's me in a nutshell.
Yeah, I wonder I hope we didn't miss Mike because I was a couple minutes late. My daughter had an issue, but usually Mike Noter is one of our usual cast of characters. Daryl, tell us who you are and all that good stuff.
I'm Daryl, AYD Internet Marketing, marketing strategy, mainly analytics, conversion rate optimization strategy, and my main specialty is pay-per-click and social ads. What am I working on? I'm actually working on a sell sheet to give people. I kind of know what to do. It's just putting it all together because I have a whole mismatch of documents everywhere. And so when you got 20 documents, it's a bit of an exercise breaking it down to the essentials because I have some that are close because I'm having someone make it for me. So I want it to look professional so I can email it or just give it to people or there's people want to show it to their clients so they can refer work to me. So I want to go above just a PowerPoint. I want it to actually look professional to go with my website. It's not really WordPress related, but that's kind of my main one. And there's always new clients and all that stuff, right? How can I collab? That's the first thing I want to get done on my end.
Cool. Reese, how about yourself, sir? You're muted.
I'm up here in Canada. I'm in Vancouver. I just recently, well, not recently, probably within the last 5 years, started a web development company. It's been going okay, but I'm just looking to connect with people and just learn from them and hopefully help them out along the way too.
Oh, I'm Canadian too. I forgot to mention that.
I know it's not going to be it's not going to be a San Diego web help group anymore. We're just
I kind of, yeah, I don't say it all the time because I meet people from all over. So I'm just used to people being from this place, this part of Canada, this part of the US, or different parts of the world. Now, I'm actually in Kelowna. I'm in BC as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm partnering with someone down in Kelowna currently.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's two Canadians. I guess it's, yeah, well, that's interesting.
Well,
Oh,
that brings
okay.
us to me, Edward Sanchez. I've got Brass Ring Web Design since, well, 1998. Been building websites. In 2009 or so, I discovered the wonderful world of WordPress and basically never looked back. So I work with small clients in this, chiefly in the Southern California area. But like most of us, the ability to do virtual meetings, which really ramped up during Zoom, because I've always had kind of an old school sensibility in terms of I like to, clients and partners, I like the idea of working with people that I can sit down and have a cup of coffee with. Zoom and the pandemic really blew that out of the water, and and I'm grateful for it because I do have friends like Daryl up in Canada, and I've got friends all around the world now as a result of this, the ability to meet. And I've also adjusted my materials. An important part of what I do is train my clients, not so much in WordPress 101 as much as once we identify what the website is about and what it's going to be doing moving forward, we put together a plan to keep the website relevant, and it's my job to make sure that they know what to do, whether it be add products, whether it be blogging, whatever it might be that they, and that also includes other, if you guys were here for my presentation about my hub and spokes thing, the website's the hub of the marketing, but you have to have spokes. So I do get involved in also like constant contact email marketing. I'm a constant contact partner because I want to make sure that the website isn't just hiding in the woods somewhere, that it's actually directing traffic to it, and that they have a more holistic marketing plan in place, which for a lot of small businesses is a challenge. And it can be really expensive, if you just turn it over to something like HubSpot or Keep, one of those, where they do it for you, it can be many thousands of dollars. My job is to kind of bridge the gap and help people who have that DIY impulse to do more with that DIY than just learn how to be a really shitty web developer. So that's me. So why don't we go around? Does anybody have any particular challenges that they want to bring to the table? Either WordPress specific, a particular challenge with the software, or a particular client maybe who has a problem they haven't been able to break. Um, or it can, we can cast a broader net and talk about challenges, because we are all small business people, which means we probably have a lot of the same challenges in scaling our businesses and dealing with the various slings and arrows of navigating business in 2024. So, anybody want to start the ball rolling?
I heard something interesting. So what I know is from experience, if you're trying to get, if you're freelance, because I'm a lot of solopreneurs, there's a lot of, that's the term now. I don't know if you've heard that. It's basically you're freelance, but you have a network, so it allows you to do more. Um, the biggest thing that I've started to do is connect with people of different strengths. And then it's an interesting one because it's kind of like Edward. We've had this discussion. Some point you do want to internalize it and figure out one main hub company, but you need the volume. But in the short term, what I do have is I have people that are just dominating just lead gen, right? So when they get leads, I can take care of the ads and everything. So definitely finding those key alliances, I think, is really important, especially when you're starting out. Because if you go and work for someone for and start losing connections, it's like they kind of start to people just they forget about you if they don't talk to you, right? So expanding your network that way, that's where I see this is anyone can just kind of jump in here. So my thought here is I see potential here because there's overlap. I've actually spoke with Brendan, so we get I've spoken with Edward, so there's others here. That's really the first and quickest way. Who knows who? That's what we're doing. So I think if we get more specifics to the type of work or referrals or your industry, I've worked in life science, I've worked in different industries, contractor lead gen. So if maybe if there's something you're really good at, that would help someone to hone in for you. That's sort of what I'll start with today.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, so we can run with that, or we can just leave it at that, and then we
Anybody
can
have any
dive into
thoughts
some
on that?
WordPress.
Anybody want to give some feedback on that? Thoughts? Otherwise, I'll jump in now. Give
Oh
my,
yeah, I mean, I could
my
say
two
that
cents
that's
worth. My 2 cents worth is sometimes worth a penny, but my thought is that two things. For one, this group especially has been, and I think it's initially this was about people getting help with their neophytes getting help with WordPress 101 type of issues, but it seems to be more of us developers. That being said, one thing I've noticed about a lot of developers is they have two things. One, they don't tend to think like marketers, and if they do, they tend to be very proprietary and reluctant to. My one of my favorite ideas is the idea that a rising tide raises all boats. So I've had and I've seen people who try to, they don't want to interact with other developers. I'm going to give away my secrets, blah blah. I have found that by not having that attitude and having an attitude of, this person is a potential ally. I've benefited greatly from it, and I've made some really great friends from it. I had another point I was going to make, but I'll just leave that one out there. If you think in terms, well, the other one is and it's connected to marketing, is to be thinking creatively. In the same way that when we're identifying audiences for a marketing program of some sort, think of the things that you need in your business to strengthen your, maybe where you have some deficits, or where or even just the things that need to be done in your business, because we all have things that we don't like to do in our business, but there are people
time.
who are not, who like to do it, you know
Or it's just time too, Edward. I have someone who's actually just focusing on contract lead gen. He was doing it already, so I just said, "Why don't you just do that?"
Hmm.
Because it's all he wanted to do. So, and then I just kind of handle the ad stuff and the other projects.
There's people who love to do accounting, you know,
Mhm.
and they love the precision of numbers. They love to see things add up and come out correctly. And you know, it's 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 a matter of what is it that you need. There are plenty, especially with MeetUp and other similar resources, we can find the things that will make us more holistic. Because I think, most of us as small businesses would like to scale beyond where we are, and often the key is greater wisdom that I don't have, abilities that I don't have, and work that I may not have the time and or energy to do myself, because you sometimes juggle a lot of flaming torches as a small business owner.
We're
So
just getting help. I mean, there's resources out there, students and whatnot. I actually have students that just want to learn now, so they're just working hours for free because they just want to learn stuff.
why don't you take a minute and tell us about that program you're a part of and how it's
Well,
how
they're not
you
even doing it to the
interact with it.
program. They just wanted to keep working with me and learn stuff. So I said, "Do we want to do 10 hours a week?" So I said, "Sure, help with LinkedIn." But you have to be selective because it's like, just when you're hiring employees, a lot of them are just, and I had some send me proposals, but because they weren't bad. I was looking for something very specific. So they're not always the right fit for the job. So you have to be careful in that. So I'll share the website. And my lesson to this is you can't be too nice, depending on the project. It's in chat. If you're at the beginning and you have time to mentor, and it's just general research, you can. If you're into a project further and they need a certain skill set and they don't have enough base experience, don't hire them just because they're students, even if they're paid for, because they won't develop that skill set in time. They're being paid to learn, either it's funded, but at the same time, you're not going to get workable material. I learned that because I took students, I thought, oh, they can do some blogs or stuff to learn the basics of SEO. And they did their best, but a lot of it has to be rewritten if I'm to at this point. So I learned that you have to vet what you are in the project and just tell people, no, you need this skill set. You have to treat it as if you're hiring a contractor, but not be as strict if it's through, for example, the Ripen program, and they have different variations of it and how they come up with, where the government pays for the students. And then I've actually hired students as contractors. Some who are really good with Elementor, for example. So then they're really reliable, and some just want to learn. And if you're fair to them, they want the work experience.
Well, at the end of the day, I mean, this is the intern program, which has been around for many, many, many generations. You can, you have to adjust your expectations. I
Well,
mean, there could be
100% I
some.
do. I expect 25 to maybe 50% max, but realistically 25% of what I would do. I think it's Gary Vaynerchuk said that. If you hire someone, expect them to do 50%, but you're buying time. So just hire people. If they can do 50% of what you know, then you're good. I think something like that. The most important thing is they're consistent, do good quality, and yeah, they're never going to perform if you've been doing it for a while. They'll never have the same passion for your business. They're not going to have the same level of, to them, at the same time, they're not going to have that same passion to the same degree.
Was it you and I, Daryl, that were talking about it, or did we talk about it in this group about the fact that at least California has now introduced legislation that would make and not NDAs, but non-compete agreements illegal, and
Yeah, I think
which
it's
is something
California.
that I hope doesn't go through. and that I hope doesn't become like so many things. I mean, California starts some really bad ideas, and they spread. They just catch
I
on.
know why they're doing it though, because some contracts, some of the non-competes they put in their conditions would lock you out of doing business. There's one I would not sign. I was working with someone and then they said, here's a contract. And I said, I can't sign the way you have this written. I think how it was written is it's all good. But it was a certain radius, for example, of their client. So like I think, but at the same time, I think they have the right to write that. And if someone doesn't want to agree to it, they have the right not to work with them. So at the same time, I mean, you can just say adjust it or I don't agree with it. So
But
I
we have to
better for
remember
employees.
it is a non-competition either clause or document, and the idea is that someone who's bringing you on and shows you how the sausage is made.
They have those, but that's more what I use is it's it's not really a non-compete. It's you can't just hire people. Like you can technically you override it. I'm fair about that. It's just they don't go in and poach people, and you just put an NDA in there. Just you don't share proprietary stuff. But I don't issue non-competes though. I don't like them. But I'd say sure, an NDA is just yeah, don't spill secrets. If it's general knowledge, keep it high level. Don't give names.
No, and this
And
one
yeah, don't poach
I
employees.
misspoke when I said NDA because it's actually non-competition.
I don't
An
understand what you're saying.
NDA
I
and
understand the
non-competition
difference.
are not the same thing.
I know that. I know. That's what I'm saying. I don't use non-competes because of the rule I don't generally agree with them. Like because they have to be written a certain way. A lot of them, the way they've been written, they're hard to enforce at the same time. Because if you don't write it a certain way, my understanding is if it infringes on your livelihood, I don't know. It's like, I guess I don't know. It's either you allow them, people can choose not to sign them. I think, I don't know.
Well,
Now,
that's the
maybe
thing.
most people have a good
For
job. This
most
probably isn't the
most
point of this group, but
there's been studies showing how much it costs to train a new employee, and there are people who just they want to get and I guess at the end of the day we are in a capitalistic, for now anyway, society, and it's laissez-faire, and competition is baked into the whole thing, but
yeah,
it's
I think it's
recognizing the
more,
fact that it does cost a lot of money and time to train somebody. And even if you don't have, like the KFC or Coca-Cola formula available, if you've taken 20 years to build up how your business operates, including putting together an operations manual that you maybe issue to you should issue to your employees, and then somebody comes along and just takes the benefit of that, learns your processes, and then goes off and starts a competing
well,
business.
that's NDA and protection of your IP.
No, that's non-competition. NDA is when you do have actual, formulas, and that's, or well,
Yeah, you
actually,
protect the
NDA
formula.
is more about you're not going to,
Yeah.
reveal what you observed in the workplace and things like that, divulge company memos and things like that. That's non-disclosure of what's going on. We don't want
I
that.
understand. I've got a whole on pretty,
California wants to eliminate the idea of non-competition clauses, and that I think is a really sticky wicket to get into.
I found most of them I would never sign. A lot of them are just,
You have any thoughts on this, Brendan?
Yeah. So this is a law that's being put to California voters or what for the
That's my
non-compete thing?
understanding. Now you got to understand, a lot of crazy shit
Right.
gets proposed in California, but at the same time, a lot of it if left unattended. And they, in California, we do things on Friday afternoons. We pass laws through in ways that aren't exactly fully transparent. And this is one that has some really serious implications for a scaling business. You put a lot of time and money into building a business, and here comes somebody else, shortcuts the process. That's why, and I'm not saying that there aren't people that are abusing it. Obviously, that's the case. We have bad capitalists, which is one of the reasons why we get hit in the face with capitalism.
Yeah, they say stuff like you can't work in this industry with any other competitor for 7 years and put some BS clause in there that basically says it like, Daryl, you can't work in marketing, another marketing company for 7 years if you work
Right.
for me. Like the
Well, there
kind
are
of stuff
some
like that.
that are
So
over.
like there's a that,
If
but you're not saying everyone's doing that. You're talking about the people as a rule, it shouldn't be illegal just because some people pull that.
Well, but this is kind of a broad-based thing, and then I haven't exactly read the legislation, but I mean, again, you can have, just like any contract, contracts are, many contracts are written that overreach. And
They're hard to enforce. When I got legal advice, there was a non-compete section, and they just put a radius because they. This was years ago. This was from a lawyer. They just said it's hard to enforce. Just make it something like this if you're going to do it. Because they even told me we can't really enforce these unless you're taking, your Coca-Cola and you go to your competitor and you mix up the formula and you start producing it and then reselling it like something obvious and rebranding it, maybe, but for the most part, it's pretty tricky. I think that's what the lawyers told me.
I just don't see something like this ever getting. I mean, I don't know. It just seems like Silicon Valley would never let something like this go through, and they have so much money and power that they can throw around. That being said, Lena Khan is what, head of the FTC right now, and she's pissing people off in Silicon Valley quite a lot. And this is probably, I'm guessing, one of her concoctions. Uh, so I don't know. I think it's interesting.
well, there's a lot of ways that, and to be honest with you, my experience with this stuff is I find that a staggering amount of small businesses don't have like any paperwork.
Oh, yeah, they don't.
It's they don't have that at all. That being said, though, I think this is something that we have to keep an eye on. We've talked about the ADA compliance thing. We're not at the point where the actual enforcement is going crazy, but as small business people, we need to be aware of these things, because
Yeah.
especially if you're putting effort to building up a business, growing a business. I assume nobody here is a mustache twirling, you know, evil capitalist, If you are, well, God bless you.
I've
But,
I have
you know,
solid contracts, but I had a really good mentor though. My contracts are pretty solid.
well, the idea of, you put out the idea that they're hard to enforce. Well,
Oh, I meant the
any
non-compete
any
can be hard to
contract is hard
enforce.
to enforce. I mean, it helps, like with anything else, that you vet your contract partners well. And
Yeah,
I'm talking about partners as well as clients. I mean, we've all come across clients that we know are going to be problems, and
yeah.
I've gotten to the point where I'm willing to say no to a client because I've seen the problems, and I'd rather not deal with the angst and the headaches than just, oh, I want the money and I want to do the job. And it's the same thing with with anything. You got to vet your partners. If you're picking somebody that is going to do something like that, you probably didn't do a good job of vetting. But at the same time, the idea of being able to protect, if you're in the business of teaching business growth and business scaling and things like that, that's one thing. But to have somebody come along and suck you dry for your information, and then, I mean, that's why competes exist. I think they should, you know. Bad ones shouldn't exist, but bad contracts shouldn't exist. They literally are illegal, you know.
Well, yeah, and you also need a good scope of work. I mean, that's the other thing I've learned. I just stuff like you got to pay up front, and I got help with it. Yeah, it's a bit of everything, and
Yeah, straw poll. Who gets paid in advance?
always get
What
paid
does
in
that
advance.
mean?
Do it the other way.
Well, maybe I should say for of the people for doing WordPress development. Um,
Like
Oh, it's
you guys, when
always
you said like when you get a project from a client, you guys get 100% down.
or
yes,
even
I will. I
50%,
will.
even
I will
something like that.
milestone
Oh,
things. I will milestone things, but only if it's over $5,000. Because I've had, you know, one of the worst experiences I've had is staying in the cheap website business for too long, and I've had people who will go ahead and they don't have the money for the project. They can't afford the project. They just can't.
There's another thing too they do to you. They hold you hostage almost, but with revisions. I'm not happy. I'm not going to pay you. I'm not happy. I'm not going to pay you. I'm not happy. You know the solution to that and how I overcome all that now is I just charge them and say, "Oh, sure, give me 2 grand. We'll write all the copy. It'll be perfect." That's all I say now. We'll handle
I've never
everything.
come across, you know, what I have come across is people who I've suspected sometimes when I used to do milestones, which I don't, um, that sometimes if, you know, they go into it expecting they will have the money when the milestone comes along,
Well,
and
that's
then the milestone
dangerous.
comes along, they don't have it, and so suddenly they're kind of digging their heels in. The
So
content's
Edward,
not coming. That I
so
have experience.
to continue that, if you're paid up front for that step, that's the difference. Pay me up front for this milestone. I'm stopping at this point. If you don't have the money, I keep the money. It's non-refundable, and that's your problem. That's the only way to approach that. Or you get all the money up front. You're still getting paid
mhm.
up front. As long as whatever you're getting paid for, the onus is still on them then,
Well,
right?
milestones is not getting paid up front.
Oh, okay, when I did it, it would be
Milestones is basically
it would
you're
pay up
offering them.
front for this part.
If
Do
you
you
do
want to pay for the
milestones,
next?
you're doing financing is what you're doing.
Oh, you're talking different. Oh yeah, I did it the other way. It's you can pay 25%, we'll do 25% of the work. If you're happy, we'll do more, but we won't do more until you pay for that part. Like
I mean,
so you can still
how do
chuck
you
it down.
quantify 25% of? I mean, I suppose
The
you could do
scope
it
of
by
work,
pages.
like layout. Say we'll do your planning, your SEO structure planning, and write your content. Then to build the site is this much, pay us, and then we'll build it. There's a system to building a website, right? It's 90% planning.
Yep, I agree with that.
Absolutely.
I agree with that. I think, and that is what a lot of people struggle with, and myself, still included, which is properly scoping projects, which is properly pricing projects up front, and being able to have a little bit of foresight. I think that anyone can push pixels around a screen, but that's the real key is being able to plan ahead.
Well, that's systems. That's a whole other person you need help with in your business, or you just need someone who's built out systems for websites and they say, well, here's a system that works. If you know someone who's done it and they sell you their or even here's my system I use. I don't really do websites. I kind of figured one out in the past. I know the basics of it. I've got here's the process, your SEO structure, but as a rule, yeah. It's not easy. I mean, systems are a whole other area.
Everyone's discovery process is different too. I mean, some people have extremely comprehensive, some people start with competitors, some people start with what's the brand actually mean. Yeah, it really just depends on the person's vibe and kind of I guess what projects they've worked on too, what they're good at.
It depends on the client too. Some clients have if they're good, we got a brand guide, it's all clear. If they're a business owner, they don't know what's going on, you got to charge more and say, we're going to do all these things for you because we need this before we even start the website
Mm-hmm.
because they have to know what they're about.
Yeah, and I
Because
completely
like, kind
agree.
of like Edward's process, until you know what they're about or even what their business is, like you're just if you don't, you need to establish that before you do anything.
Yeah,
Well,
that's one
like
of the
Brandon
first.
was saying, the discovery for me, increasing my discovery process, improving my discovery process has been huge. Because for two reasons. One, with the proper discovery, when I'm asking pointed questions, and my attitude all through the discovery is we're going to figure out if we're a good fit. You know, I'm not desperate here to get your money and do your process. We're going to figure out if we're a good fit because I may not be the right guy. Some people,
Oh, you do it free?
the discovery process,
Oh, I charge for it, but yeah.
well, that's the first call for most people. I mean, if you can get paid for your discovery process, hey,
Well, maybe it's terminology, right? Basically, I've got the quick, are you a fit? Do you make sense? And then depending what they need, then there's the full onboarding with discovery. I guess it's
yeah,
terminology. There's kind
yeah. See,
of, there's two
that's not
levels
the,
of it. Yeah, I understand what you mean now.
yeah. That's for me.
Wording, that's all it is.
For me. That's the planning process of the website.
Okay,
But the
got
discovery
it.
is a combination of if you've had sales training, an important part of sales training is qualifying the buyer. You know,
Mhm.
and in this case, it's not just qualifying them as to the thickness of their wallet. It's to determine whether you're a good fit. So at the same time, the philosophy of this discovery process that I use is that by asking questions that go beyond what color do you like, what's your, what are your bullet points that you want to have on your website, things like that, but asking them questions about how they stay in touch with their clients. How often do they stay in touch with their clients? Do they feel that that's a good level of contact? What is a new client worth to them in dollars and cents? Questions like that make them realize this isn't just a guy who, like you said, Daryl, moves electrons around, but somebody who's actually a marketer who is using a website as a tool for marketing, but is actually going to identify, the audience and what makes them tick. So
Well, and just to tie this back into what Daryl was also saying about having, like, I guess, milestones, and that's something what I'll do as discovery is my first stepping stone, because if I can get them to agree to, here's my discovery process. Here's all the research I'm going to do on you, on your competitor, on all your various backlinks, all this, whatever it is. And it depends on what the client is, but that's your first step. And if you like that process, then we can build the website together. And if you don't like that process, you can take all of that information with you and go give it to the next person, because I've given you something that's incredibly valuable, at least what I consider valuable. It's my full analysis of your website, your current rankings, everything that goes into what that is. And if you don't like, our work together, again, you can just take that with you. And it's the same reason why I'll do wireframing for a website before I even jump into my builder of choice, because I want them to see that there's something that they get, even if, hey, look, let's put a stop on this relationship, but they still have something that they can take forward with them. And usually they don't leave, right? They just like that process. They like that someone's even thinking about a step-by-step thing. So anyway.
any thoughts, Reese?
Yeah, I'm basically close to what everyone else is talking about. Is I call it interviewing the client, because I'm willing to walk away if need be, because I've had a lot of, let's call it, shitty
Flakes.
clients that I've also been involved in some scams. For some reason, Vancouver seems to be filled with them. But people who, I've had one guy where I spent 3 months working on a project, and he showed me he had the money, but he had been running away from law, the law, for like the last 5 years. So when it came to paying me, it was always, my lawyer will pay you, and you never get the money. So I had a lot of that early on. So I want to get into the client's face. Like, I see it as if I'm wasting my time on this client, I could have someone else. So even though they promised me that I'm going to get 10, 15 grand off of them, that may not materialize. So yeah, I do what Daryl does. I try to get as much money up front as possible so you can see the commitment on their end and also your end. Like, once you get the money, you want to complete it. And I always want to complete a project for good people,
Of
and I want
course.
to complete it well.
Yeah, I don't
So
even think about milestones for less than $5,000. I might consider it for a larger project, but most of my
Mm.
projects are under 5,000 anyway.
And
yeah,
I mean, 5,000 if you were writing the content for them and everything, it's not that much. I mean, that's what a website costs. Proper, all the SEO, the technical, the schema, write the ad copy, the SEO, et cetera, et cetera. Like, that's 5 grand right there,
Yeah, see,
easily.
when I'm not writing all of the copy for them, but I am serving as less of a writer, more of an editor, because for most people at my level of business, they understand what they do. They understand their products, and their products or services are available either from them, or if it is an actual physical product, there's descriptions from the manufacturer and what have you. But what I find that most people have, like most people have pitches. If they're a startup, maybe not. But if they've been doing what they've been doing for a while, they have pitches that they can, well, sometimes it's about helping them determine their pitch sucks. Your pitch really doesn't work. But let's say it's somebody who can occasionally close a sale, figure out what their best pitches are and consolidate it in the website. But I'm not going to provide all their content. That's going to be provided by them, or I can
They
facilitate
pay
it
you to
for them.
do it.
Was
You
that
even hire someone to write it. The thing is, I found it's easier because they can
you?
opt out, but I always offer we can write we'll do your discovery process, your interview, whatever term you use. And then it's this much, we'll write the copy, it'll be SEO'd, and it'll be based off the initial process. If they say no, well, then they can go ahead and do that. And then you can say, okay, we'll do editing. But with a lot of clients, if they get too busy, it just makes sure the website moves along because it's kind of like, oh, yeah, I'll get to this thing. And then, oh, yeah, I got swamped. I couldn't write the copy and this and that. It's
yeah,
no, we'll take care of it. Just they can always decline.
yeah. That's what I come across is I try to get involved in the copy only because it keeps the website project going. I find if you rely on the client too much to write it, it you could it takes much longer because it will be stop and start. At least that's what I've found for some of my clients. I prefer that once I start, I could keep on a roll, close this project out as fast as possible. So I try to get content ready. That's why, like, when you guys were talking about getting connections out there, that's kind of what I've been doing in the last year or so, is just reconnecting with people I've worked with in the past that I know do good jobs and use them because you get work from them and you give work to them. So it's like a push and pull type atmosphere, and everybody is successful together.
You're being kind of quiet, Charles. Any thoughts?
No, uh, I uh, I have
Where
not.
do you fall on the idea of milestones and getting? When do you get paid? Are you
Now I've
okay with trusting them to pay you down the road?
Nah, I mean the few projects that I have had that were paid in the last couple of years, I've tried to do like X percentage up front, and then X percentage when complete. Um, I haven't had anybody try to scam me out of anything lately. Um, when I was using like Guru or freelancer.com, there were so many um, project scams out there. Um, but but
Most of
yeah,
them pay
and
up front now, I think. A lot of them, I think you have
well,
to,
they're supposed to escrow,
yeah,
but
they're
yeah,
legally, they hold you to it.
yep. And like I said, I haven't had any paying gigs on the freelance side in a little while, so
Yeah. I just learned to front to get some clients, hey, it's been 2 months. Oh, and sometimes they legitimately forget, and you have to keep reminding them. What I found. And sometimes if it's $300, that gets kind of tiring. Can I have my $300? I don't really charge that much anymore, but
Well,
when I was
that brings
$300,
up
that
a
just became
point.
a pain, and it got to become a lot of work.
I don't have an accounts receivable department. I don't like to have to chase people around for payments and that sort of thing. And that's exactly what you sign up for when you milestone. When you
Yeah.
when you get paid, then you do the work, you know. I mean, it's a commission fee and a payment all in one. But I've
Yeah,
worked with several um, web design gurus who are specialists in helping people scale web design businesses, and pretty much to a man or to a person, they they go they get the money up front
always
because
get it up front. Anything, even if it's a certain percent, get it up front. Pretty much it's pretty standard in marketing because you have to pay people. A lot of them you got to hire a copywriter, or you have to
well,
do.
you're a little different, Daryl, because you by design are setting up an ongoing thing. You have a monthly charge for running their ads and maintaining their ads and writing, tweaking their ads and writing new ads. For somebody like myself, it's generally, although I'm looking to change that. That's why, I like the idea of teaming up with people like yourself.
Well, that's why I went with paid because I was doing web design and then it was stop go and people could pay me and they paid me every month. And it's really that simple. It wasn't that I set out. It was, and it wasn't, I didn't really mind doing it and I could do it on retainer. So I stuck with it and I stopped doing a website stuff. It was really just a business decision.
Do
Right, right,
do you
right.
guys offer website maintenance and hosting plans, or just sorry, then this is
And
to everyone, I guess, but I mean, because that's important recurring revenue right there.
that's a big one. Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
tell clients if they want the websites or if someone is doing the site, I say they should offer it because that's you basically your ticket out of clients getting free work later. You say pay monthly, we'll take care of it. You get so many revisions. If you don't, next time you want to change, it's going to cost you hourly.
Mhm. Yeah, and
But
a
yeah,
lot of
they
people are
should
doing
be.
like a website as a subscription model too, that instead of charging 5 grand up front, they'll charge 500 bucks a month, but that adds up pretty quick.
Yeah,
Well, I know
that's
someone who
kind of,
does that, and
yeah.
I'm not going to name anyone. Like obviously, he's just essentially how that works. So is you rent the site.
Right.
They're renting the site from you.
Mhm.
So I mean, that's the only agency. You're renting a site. Like if you buy Go High Level or any of these subscriptions and build it out, like it's not a lot of SaaS does that. You're renting the website essentially. So you can do website rental models.
Yeah, or like a WAS, website as a service.
Basically,
Yeah.
you say, here's your site and you own it.
Yeah, and that's
And
where
lots of
my
companies do it.
business model has been closely tied to the DIY um, user of
Yeah.
WordPress, because let's face it, a lot of people are drawn to WordPress because of the free software, no ongoing licensing and what have you. So my thing is to provide a bridge where I can use in my experience and abilities, I can bridge the gap between the great software and actually building a site worth a damn, and then empowering them, because they're going to spend, they spend so much time on learning bad web design. I'll do the bad web design, and then show them how to do the ongoing care and feeding and ongoing marketing, which may very well, hopefully, at some point in time, allow for us to bring in somebody like Daryl to have because you gotta have an ad campaign going with, unless you're doing a lot of organic marketing yourself, which is time consuming and an education all of its own, so.
Put a message in the chat that you guys might want to look at. The way I approached it in the past was that I would come up with an estimate of the project, and in most cases, I would charge a 50% deposit. But some of these clients had worked for me for a period of time, and then something happened, they walked away, and there was nothing I could do to collect it, short of driving across the country and, threaten
Did you
them.
get payment up front for the work you did do?
For some of the work that I did, yeah, I got payment up front, but like that big one, that was tough.
Yeah, at those numbers, it might be worth driving across the country.
Yeah.
Wow, that's too bad.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't start the work though until they paid me, though. That's the thing. Like, that's basically my approach. And until I get paid, I don't start the work. Because that way you know you're paid. That's big because it's kind of hard in some clients, but because unless they're corporate or some really big organization and they have 90 days and some of them are 60 due to vendors, I mean, that's exception, right? Like large enterprise, you should just have the money up front. It should be processing and going in your bank account before you even do any work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, listen, I mean, I've done it. I've done the bill after, and people got way behind. Some didn't pay, and yeah, I mean, that was just the simplest answer. Once I see that you run your card through or whatever, or you transferred it, I'll start working. And it says it in my contract, even.
But you're also charging monthly.
I don't even do it that way with websites. If I'm whatever reason someone's working under me, that's why I bill out websites. I'm not going to do anything till they pay for that portion. Because if I'm paying people, I'm making sure they get paid. You have to look after the people out, that are working with you. Because at the end of the day, you're still on the hook to pay them.
Of course.
So now, if you're chasing people for money, then what? You don't pay them because that, or you're just out of pocket. So that client should just pay you. Because some of them just want to be paid up front. So you got to make sure you can guarantee the work gets done. That's the whole thing, right? Everyone should just get paid. And if they don't have the money for the website, maybe there's other parts of their business they need to work on. Maybe they just need a landing page and they need to get on the phone and make cold calls. I mean, then I have another discussion with them. Maybe there's something else going on in their business. We can still help. Maybe it's not the 20-page SEO website. Here's a simple 3-page site for less. Go do some organic, do your stuff, get some sales, and come back to me. And there's always a solution. That's how I look at it.
Yeah. I mean, if I heard someone say early on, like if you don't have the Ferrari, if they can't afford the Ferrari, you better have the Camry on the lot to show them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Better than nothing.
That's kind of how I built my business. Is for me, I do small little chunks for them over time, so I get paid for this page or whatever, and I find that it gets an ongoing conversation with them through a couple years. So when they need the second version of the website, they'll come to you because you've built that relationship. You've had that conversation. So I work on, I know this is WordPress, but I work in the Shopify world, and a lot of that is small little chunks to get paid for projects. It's all like everyone can build a quick Shopify site. It's all the other little functionalities that don't come with it that I get paid for. And I find that over time, if you do enough of them, you get paid. Like the project will be like 10, 15 grand. And you have that ongoing relationship with them. Or even like, I have a couple clients where I just phone out of the blue and we just shoot the shit because we just get along so well.
And Shopify's always got random issues with their plugins and stuff.
Oh yeah,
So
there's
there's
that.
always work with them and they're cryptic. So if you don't know Shopify, it you specialize in it or you don't. And it's not as easy to use as WordPress. It's a
No,
little more proprietary. It's not open source. So you have to actually be on bigger sites that are being paid for. So yeah, it's a good skill. Shopify is definitely good and has its place, but it's not like WordPress where
no,
sometimes it's harder to get Shopify support sometimes. So if you know it, it's worth a lot.
yeah. But yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to bring up Shopify, but it's a good
So it's
example
related.
of,
It's all web.
Hey,
It's
that's
okay.
good.
We're
yeah,
not
Yeah.
we're not precious about that stuff. We talk about
okay.
Shopify and
It,
I have Shopify running on WordPress sites
yeah,
anyway too.
exactly. Shopify
Yeah.
runs on WordPress. We talk about WooCommerce, all kinds of
yeah,
plugins and software. So don't feel like you're gonna. And if
yeah,
there's anybody here who gets offended by somebody speaking about something that's outside of WordPress, please get over it.
I like
yeah,
Yeah.
because,
Shopify. It's great for ecom. It's out of the box. It does what most people want. I mean, it
yeah,
does. It's awesome for the
Well,
right
that's the
application.
thing. I mean, look, Shopify is a content management system. There's many of them, and the reason why WordPress is the leading CMS is why I specialize in WordPress. I have put my eggs in that basket because it's a big enough basket that I'd like to be a part of.
It's
Um,
stable. It's
yeah,
not going anywhere. If WordPress goes away, there's probably bigger
well,
problems than
probably neither is
WordPress.
Shopify, but I personally I would rather have a WordPress with WooCommerce on it than
Well, for ecom, there's a lot of little things you have to do, regulation, this thing, privacy thing, this thing, that thing. With to manage that on your own WordPress, you can do it. With you can do that, get WooCommerce and do all that stuff. But if you don't want to, it handles all that legal stuff. Like so out of the box, it's really good for that privacy thing because it's all on their server. From a
hmm
legal point, it's so there's other things, right? When it comes to e-com, handling transactions, etc. So that's, I mean, you probably do that, but
yeah.
that's big.
I generally I tell all my clients to hire a payment processor to keep like they store all the data on their end in terms of transaction because I've been involved with um like data breaches and where they've stolen credit card information. Or for one site, it was they were putting in uh like it was a pre-loan stuff. So I had a site that wasn't protected well enough. I was brought in because someone had hacked the site and was demanding like 20,000 out of the client
Oof.
to make sure that they were protected. So yeah,
well, we're about 5 minutes from the end of our meeting. Is there anything that somebody wanted to talk about that we didn't cover? Because maybe we talk too much about stuff that
I,
we
I would
did
just
cover.
add only because it's kind of time sensitive. I don't know how you guys feel about appsumo.com. And if you guys have ever bought tools from
I
there.
have. I bought a
Yeah.
CRM on there, stuff that sucked, and they improved it over the years. Now I use it, and it would be $30, $50 a month, some of it.
Yeah. I have the same experience. I've also had bad experiences, but mostly
Oh, me
good.
too.
But I would say, yeah. So they're having the whatever, like the annual sale right now is going on. There's a good number of, I think, pretty decent tools out there. So anyway, I just thought I would throw that out there
What
because it's
kind of
kind of,
products are you inclined to get from them, Brendan?
so I got two, not during this sale, but in the previous sale, called one's activepieces.com, and that is a free open source Zapier alternative. So that
Oh, yeah.
lets you
Good.
automate things. It's very useful. I have a couple videos that I made that are WordPress specific. I can share those if it's helpful. The second, and then so yeah, if you guys don't have an automation tool like Zapier, I do recommend something like that. Just because clients come up with things all the time. They're like, hey, how do I do this? How do I do that? Sometimes you can automate it for them and charge them because
I need
if it's
this.
solving a very important pain point for them, yeah, I'm sure you could find something too, Daryl.
Well, this
So
is where Zapier started and MailChimp. They were lifetime deals. And I brought Plutio on here and Serpstat years ago. Some other stuff. I still
yeah,
use it. Some social posting software I barely use. If I want, it's there. Yeah, it's if you get
ACF
the
started
right
on there.
software, it is worth it. But there's a lot of stuff. Yeah, you got to be careful. You can just spend a bunch of money, but there are definitely some good ones in here.
Mm-hmm, for sure. So that is definitely one that I think is pretty highly rated, and because it's open source, it's all available code. You can actually self-host it for free, or whatever you pay for a server, right? So you can host it yourself as well. Um, the other one that I recommend, depending on what you're trying to do, is Simply Static. That lets you create static WordPress sites. And if you have the pro version, and you can use the free one's pretty solid. You can create zip backups, and then you can upload those to Cloudflare pages, and you get free hosting for websites. And now
Yeah.
they're not interactive; they're static sites, and so you need to know what that means. And I can share some more about that. But first, we have a lot of client sites that I'd like to offload off of actual servers, and I can do that directly onto Cloudflare. And yeah, so that's another one.
I actually got phrase off here at one point. I don't know. Are
Yeah,
you familiar with phrase?
I've heard of it. It's crazy to think that some of them started on there. That
Yeah, I bought it a few years ago and I bought some plan. Yeah, it's this tool.
And for those not familiar, AppSumo is sort of like early adopter rates, so you get a
Yeah.
very cheap or lifetime deal to certain softwares that then are, if they catch on, they blow up to the next Zapier.
Yeah, keep them. Yeah, some of it, the software is terrible. You get it and it sucks and you
Some
don't
of
use
some
it.
of them they're out of business
Yeah.
in less than a year. So yeah, be smart with it. But I I only recommended those two because they've actually been around for I don't know, years at this point now. So anyway,
That's always been one of the reasons I like the WordPress world is the ability to vet products well, because I want to see 4 or 5 stars. I want to see significant number of purchases or downloads. I want to see that they're providing regular updates. Because I mean, let's face it, when you have an open source platform like WordPress, that means that anybody who just got their computer science degree can maybe build a product, but
Maybe
which,
not.
which can
The
be the
schools don't
greatest thing
teach
since
that.
sliced bread when
they
it
could
first
launch a
comes
product but
out.
not build a successful product.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the problem.
It's awesome when it hits, but if it's gonna basically become archaic because there's never a 2.1, then that's not something I want to put my clients into,
And
or
actually,
myself for that matter.
and on the flip side of that, just to share, because that's usually the most common one where someone starts off really strong and then they just slowly stop developing features because they run out of money, basically. Now, earlier this year, there was a page builder called Quickly, and they went out of business, and they had actually just they've been innovating like crazy, maybe too much, and they didn't focus enough on the marketing side. So it's not just about building the best product. You gotta sell the vision, you gotta sell the workflow, you gotta get people on board with that.
Well,
So
it's just like us, you know. I mean, there is the thing you do, and then there's the business that goes along with the thing you do. And if the business model is all development,
right.
and they don't pay the electric bill.
I think that's why a lot of people, at least in the circles I'm in, there's a lot of really talented developers. They can't run businesses worth their life. They can't do sales. They don't focus enough on sales. And
Yeah.
I don't either, but like it's funny to see that because people that they're just so brilliant and they could build you any web app, they know 15 languages and they can't sell it.
Well, find someone who can sell because someone has to build it. I learned I took sales. I've learned enough to do enough rounded things on that. But at the same time, yeah, I just looked. My current phrase plan would be $115 a month right now. It's crazy.
There's
Anyways,
a
Yeah.
there's a book that I regularly recommend to people who are, because one of the oops.
it's time, I guess.
Yeah, I think we can stretch it a little bit.
Well, yeah, I gotta go soon.
One of the books that I really like is by a gentleman by the name of Michael Gerber, who's actually out of San Diego, and he wrote a book called The E-Myth Revisited.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that.
That's a absolute classic.
I'll
Yeah.
put the link in the
I don't think I've
chat.
read the revisited one. That's like the redone or whatever, the new version.
I believe that was the first one.
Oh, okay.
It started with Revisited, which was,
Gotcha.
I always, because I made the effort of trying to find the version of one, and I found that this was it. But I mean, his philosophy, and he operates from the from the franchise model, that as business people, we should be thinking in terms of putting our business together as if we're building a franchise. He actually, his target is to build a business to sell, but you can still do the thing, which is understanding to systematize, to put things down so that you can pass it on to someone else, be it an employee or an angel investor, whatever it is. And he identifies that a lot of people get into business because they have a particular skill or passion, and yet, and the subtitle for the book, let me read it to you exactly. The subtitle of the book is Why Most Small Businesses Don't Work and What to Do About It. And his idea is that, a lot of small business start from somebody having a passion or an interest or a skill. They're a plumber, decides to break out on their own. And so that's the technician. We have these roles. That's the technician in the business. But the business also needs the manager, he calls it. That's the person who makes sure that the processes are in place, the structures are in place, the business license, the taxes are paid, all of that. And then there's the entrepreneur. And now, mind you, he has other, like most things, whether it's whatever, these books kind of take on a life of their own, and they generate other books and what have you. So he expands the idea, but in the basic one, it's about, you've got the technician, you've got the entrepreneur. I'm sorry, the entrepreneur is the dreamer. That's the person who aspires, who thinks in terms of the future, what have you. And then there's the boring old manager who makes sure that the lights are on and what have you. So I really recommend that book to anyone who's in any way interested in growing beyond where they are right now. It's
an important book. And you think about where you're at. I learned I'm not good in the day-to-day weed stuff. I get bored after a while. So, I mean, I'll do it, but I want us to delegate out day-to-day ad
Yeah,
management basic stuff, it's because it doesn't, I should be doing other things.
right,
There's just
right.
things I'm better off spending my time on than adding negative keywords to an ad account. Someone can
Automation. You embrace the
Yeah,
robots.
maybe yes
that's
and
it.
no. You got to be
Yeah.
careful with some of that.
Yep,
Like, I don't
definitely.
think I would have AI do negatives right away because I've had Google try to tell me to remove negatives when I did it on purpose. Automate what you can. Some things I'd still rather pay someone 20, 25 an hour or whatever, right? Something at least decent and just
We've seen
have
we've
the
seen how
job.
when it comes to content, I mean, Google really stepped on their crank when they got caught. You know, their bias was translated into their
Yeah.
AI, and so they're going to have to really go a long way before I will trust that algorithm to feed the AI. But there's so many AIs coming online right now anyway, It's not the only one.
Yeah, it's definitely I is set up so it's different from the rest. I've actually been using Chat GPT for Build Your Own to kind of test that out, and it it helps. I mean, it's better at some things than others. You can feed it books and stuff. It's interesting.
Sure.
I mean, I'm actually gonna. This has been a good conversation. So I'm gonna drop my contact info in the
Yeah,
chat.
please,
I
everybody
have
feel
to,
two things. One, put your contact information in the chat and
yeah.
also save the chat. And I will have the replay up this this last month because of my move. It took me like 3 weeks to get the replay up of Holly's presentation, which I owe her a big apology for, but it's been what it's been. But yeah, put your contact in the chat, save the chat. If you don't know how to save the chat, there's three dots in the chat window up at the top. If you click on it, one of the options is to save the chat, and it'll create a text file that will save in your Zoom folder. And that way you have any content or information that's been put in there during our session. Before we wrap up, I usually call for, has anybody come across a product or a presentation and of course we got Brendan next month. Make sure to put that on your calendar. Our next meeting is going to be on custom post types, and I'm really interested in seeing what Brendan's got to teach us. But also, if you've seen a presentation, put it in the chat. I can reach out to them, see about having it done here. If you've got a particular area of interest or expertise and you think you can give a presentation around that, please put it in the chat and I'll reach out to you and we can, and I'll reiterate what I've said before. Any presentations that we put together for this, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be even complete. My goal for anybody who puts together a presentation from our community is that we help you make this thing something that you can then take to other groups. Don't think of it in terms of just us. There's a lot of other meetup groups. There's all kinds of networking groups that you can present to. And a presentation like that can be a really great source for leads. It's a great way to establish and emphasize and nurture your authority in different areas. So don't be shy.
Yeah, and I
Hi.
mean, I don't know if it's worth, like, since we have people here, is my topic interesting to people? Is that are there other ideas that people have that, I mean, I don't know if there's I'll
No,
give the talk anyway.
you, your topic is very important because I find that I use advanced custom post types almost in every single one of my websites
Okay.
recently.
Yeah, same here. I can't imagine building without it now, and I just want people to see how powerful that is. So okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm looking forward to it. I was really regretting that that because of me, because it was the fact that I've been
Oh, don't worry about
distracted
it.
otherwise. But I was really looking forward to hearing more about it and see what you've got to offer on that.
Okay, cool.
All right, well, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Glad you guys showed up.
It has been. This is the first time in a while I've come to a meetup where I've left.
And let's do
overenjoyed.
whatever you can. Share the group, share the events in your social, in your
Yeah.
because you are part of this. This is designed to raise all boats. So if we get more people showing up, that's more opportunities for you to find clients, to find partnerships, to find other relationships that we wouldn't have otherwise. So
Yeah, but they had the big WooCommerce hack today, so you probably are going to get a bunch of clients in the next few weeks.
I hadn't heard about that. I've
Yeah,
been
can you
hacking.
share the details?
Yeah, let me see if I can find the exact details, but there's some kind of patch. I don't know if I think it's up to 8.85. But if you guys have WooCommerce sites,
Put the link in the chat.
Yeah, let me see if I can find it.
Hey, Risa emailed you. It didn't. It bounced back.
Did I spell it?
Did you put in .com after the?
Yeah, I used what you DM'd me.
Or what did I?
I did a Google and I'm not seeing anything.
Or
Let me see if I can find it. I definitely saw it this morning in a few groups I'm in.
I had a freaking nightmare last fall. Hackers were breaking into all of my stores, and they looked for anybody who had PayPal set up, and they would substitute the email address from the merchant's PayPal to their own.
Yeah.
Freaking nightmare.
That's terrible. That's terrible. So I just posted the link to it. This is from the developer WooCommerce site. Cross-site scripting.
Yeah, I think that's a fix to an old issue, because they're actually on 8.9.3 is the most recent Woo that released today.
Yeah, I think it was like back patching something on a version that probably most people are not on, but I think a lot of people still are. So some people just don't have automatic updates on, and who knows?
I don't let Woo auto update.
Yeah, right.
I don't like auto updates in general.
Daryl, I updated that. It was a typo.
I'll resend that.
Well, listen, I have to roll on. So, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure, and I'll have my poop in a better pile next month.
Good luck.
So, but in the meantime, thank you for being here. Do what you can to grow our numbers. Invite other interested folks, and I'll see you next month.
Perfect.
Stay well, guys.
All right. Take care, guys.
Bye, everyone.
And thanks, Ed, for putting this on.
Oh, you bet.
Okay,
Take care, everybody.
Have a good week, everyone.
Daryl, we'll talk soon.
Very well. Bye,
Wait, let's see. How do I say this?